How long is America going to pretend the world is not at war? From Berlin, Rome, and Tokyo, we have been described as a nation of weaklings and playboys who hire British or Russian or Chinese soldiers to do our fighting for us.
I'm going to the war.
You just make sure and come back for the both of us, all right?
Hello and welcome to the Damian and Devlin Show. This is our review for Pearl Harbor, the 2001 film directed by Michael Bay, starring Ben Affleck, Kate Beckinsale, Josh Hartnett, and Cuba Gooding Jr. is who I was
He
thinking
almost
of.
forgot him again, but he saved it.
Anyhow, this was, of course, the big blockbuster movie that is probably infamously known as being critically panned and people just don't like it. But it still made a lot of money, and I think it gets a little bit, doesn't get the respect it deserves. Now, Damien actually picked this movie, and I had seen it, and he was surprised that I actually really liked it too. Why did you pick this movie?
I think this movie is December 5th by the time that people are watching this, hopefully. I mean, if you've watched it a little later, that's okay. But we published this video on December 5th. On December 7th is the commemoration for the attack on Pearl Harbor, because it took place on December 7th, 1941, which sparked the United States entry into World War II. And I figured it would be a good time to not only show our remembrance to that, but then also review a movie as well.
This movie's story, basically, of course, besides the actual events of Pearl Harbor, follows two childhood friends that basically become fighter pilots and find romance and war and the struggles of life. Now, as I said, this was a really big hit at theaters. Michael Bay, basically Disney wanted their version of Titanic. Titanic had become the biggest movie of all time, and Disney put Michael Bay to the job to come up with their own, and basically that's exactly what happens with this movie. And we got Pearl Harbor. Now, the movie did become a major success, but most people didn't like it.
I don't know why. I mean, you and I both watched it, and when I broached the subject of this movie to you, I thought, because I know people don't like it, I thought you would have been one of the ones that said, you know, I don't like it, it's bad, but you didn't.
Now, people,
and it surprised me.
And people tend to like the war aspect of it, like the battle sequences are good, but they had some problems with the love story and just everything else in this movie. And no, when you mentioned you wanted to do it, I said, Damien, we're going to get roasted because we both actually like this movie.
Yeah.
You know, and I do. And watching it again, I still like this movie a lot.
No, I think it's been a while since I've seen it, and I think watching it with you, as well as just knowing that it's such a great movie as I've gone older over the years, I think I actually like it better than I have in the past, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and I know this was kind of a, I don't want to say rip-off, but they were going for their own version of Titanic. For people who know me, I'm not the biggest Titanic fan. I actually think they get a lot of it better than Titanic. And I know, please send your comments. I'm okay. I can handle them. But I actually do. I think some things are actually handled better than the Titanic. What are your positives of Pearl Harbor?
This movie is absolutely beautiful. The soundtrack is stunning. I got moved so many times just listening to the music. It's so beautiful. Of course, they brought in Sheryl Crow to do There You'll Be at the very end.
Faith Hill.
Faith Hill, sorry. Sheryl Crow did something else that I recently watched, which was on my mind. Faith Hill, yes. And I absolutely fell in love with Faith Hill's song. And it actually resides on my iPod. And that's how much I love the music from this movie. Shout out to both Faith Hill and Sheryl Crow if you're watching. Both talented artists. Also on top of that, the visuals. You and I were watching the movie, and not only in the non-war scenes, some of these scenes are just absolutely beautiful. Like flying above Hawaii, the sunset, and some of even the battle scenes, like when the Japanese dive bombers are coming down, it's just, you called it art, and I thought it was absolutely perfect example of it. It was absolutely stunning.
Yeah, beautiful art. The artistic shot. You're seeing like following bombs hitting ships. I almost think it should almost not be that artistic, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's,
it sounds wrong
because it's
calling
such a
art.
tragic event in history, like beyond tragic. And here we're looking at it going, oh, that's beautiful. Like, look at that bomb. Look at the style, the way that bomb's hitting that ship.
It sounds wrong as saying it, but watch it and you'll understand it. It's visually stunning. And I'm kind of a schmuck for good love stories, and this is a fantastic love story. And Devlin and I, we agree, not only should there be love between two people romantically, but there should also be a very big emphasis on the love of friendship as well. And I think that Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett do a fantastic job of conveying the fact that they've been friends for years. So much so that they probably think of each other as brothers and family. And they just demonstrate it in such a way that when something happens to the other and they always come to each other's defense, you can tell that they genuinely love each other. And it kind of, in my opinion, dwarfs the love for their characters for Kate Beckinsale. And that's basically what really hits home with me, is the fact that not only do they get the romance right between the male and the female characters, but then they get the romance right with the friends as well. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. Just my opinion, though. But, I mean, there are things that I like about it as well. I think it's very historically accurate with regards to the attack on Pearl Harbor. To a point, there are some faults, and I'll get to those in a second. But just the way that some of the ships blowing up and capsizing and sinking, Michael Bay, you said it yourself, he definitely did his homework with regards to this attack. And I definitely applaud that, because it was definitely a touchy subject. I know Americans, they use this as basically the jumping point into the war. And I know a lot of veterans were still alive that lived through Pearl Harbor when this movie came out. So the fact that he stayed so true to the actual historical event is, in my opinion, phenomenal.
Any other positives?
No.
I will start with Michael Bay. I know a lot of people don't like him, and they all just say it's all explosions, and I agree. It's been, since he's done the Transformer movies, they have. But even in the worst Transformer movies, I find that there's still wonderful scenes in his action shots. This movie is actually one of his best in my eyes. As far as visual goes, you know, you might not like story details, but visually, he gets almost everything right in this movie. It's such a big scope. Like, he took on so much, and it's just amazing what he nails. And as I said, artistic war shots that almost are too beautiful. Like,
yeah.
He shows the horrors of war, but it's almost so beautiful that you're just kind of lost. But he should get some credit more than he did. Now, I'll be honest, when I went into this movie, when I first saw it, I had big crushes on Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett. Like,
okay, I had a crush on Kate Beckinsale.
I had a crush on Kate Beckinsale too, believe it or not.
She's no Gal Gadot, but I mean, if she's still willing, hi.
And I always joke that I always kind of hate Kate Beckinsale in this movie, but it was only a joke because I hated that she had to choose between two awesome guys. And in a roundabout way, she kind of gets both of them. So... But you know what? I love Kate Beckinsale in this movie. I think they just casted really good people. I think they do a great job. Honestly, I think they really do a good job. Music, you mentioned already, is really incredible. The little details you were telling me were true. Were like, they must have, like, they've incorporated so many little aspects. Damian will let you know the ones that they didn't get right, but amazing stuff. And it was handy having him next to me, who watches like every war documentary he can get his hands on. So he tells me, or I'll even ask, was that accurate? And then he'll usually have an answer for me, and if not, he will find it for me. So I love that they paid so much attention to details. And it's just a beautiful looking film. Like, overall, it is. And it's a war movie. It's a love story. I think it works on both levels, but I think that's probably where people had some problems with it. Because, you know, the Titanic was... Even the idea of the boat was romanticized, where it's hard to romanticize a major tragedy in the world. So your negatives.
Before I jump into that,
Yeah.
while you were talking, actually, with regards to the casting, I'm going to agree with you on that. The casting was fantastic. I felt like every single actor and actress in this movie played their part so perfectly, and I could not imagine any of them being cast any different. One thing I also really enjoyed, and I pointed this out to you in the movie, is the character development. And the fact that Michael Bay actually manages to shoehorn, and I know that's kind of like a bad term for it, but he puts characters in there that you wouldn't really expect him to put in there, and they just fit so well, because not only do you get the love story of the love triangle, but then you get side characters, and it seems every single side character in this movie has their own subplot, which eventually does get resolved, and I think that's fantastic. It's very hard to do on a movie of this scope, and he managed to nail it perfectly. But with regards to my negatives, so Devlin made mention that there are some historical inaccuracies, and the unfortunate thing with this movie is that people don't like it not because of those historical inaccuracies. They don't like it because of the, like you pointed out, the love story,
The triangle, yeah.
which I feel is kind of what are you talking about? But the historical inaccuracies. So for those of you that are up to snuff with your history, Franklin Roosevelt was not in a wheelchair by the time the Pearl Harbor attack happened, so that bothers me as well. As well as there's a line that Josh Hartnett's character says, and it's not a spoiler by any means, because I mean it's world history. World War II happened, but he at one point is on a radio with another character, and that other character asks what happened, what's going on, because there's a lot of noise in the background, and Josh Hartnett's character goes, "I think World War II just started." And a big problem with me is the fact that they didn't call it World War I and World War II back then. They had just finished World War I 20 years prior, and they still referred to it as the Great War. It wasn't until afterwards that they had two major wars, so they figured, you know what, we might as well call them World War I and II. So that bothered me as well. Some aspects of it, like I said, most of my negatives are with regards to the historical inaccuracies. And one major thing about the inaccuracy is the fact that it only ever shows Danny and Rafe, so Josh Hartnett and Ben Affleck's characters, getting their planes off the ground. That's inaccurate as well. The United States airmen that managed to get off the plane, numbered in the late 80s to hundreds, to manage to fight off the Japanese. And they were very successful at it, believe it or not. They managed to shoot down quite a few planes. But that's another glaring thing. And I understand that the movie was trying to focus on just Josh Hartnett and Ben Affleck's character, but I think that credit is due with regards to the other heroes that actually managed to get their planes up and defend Hawaii. So that's just me.
I only have a few negatives. My first one is a small one, but we were making jokes about it. And I think once we said it, we couldn't help but see it. There's actually like newsreel footage throughout the thing where they narrate to tell you where they are at with the war. And for some reason, the actual voice does not sound like it really fits with the movie. And I mentioned it sounded like the old Super Friends cartoon when I believe it was Ted Knight used to come in and say, you know, "Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, Wonder Woman and Flash are waiting to hear from Aquaman."
Meanwhile, in Europe, Hitler continues to dominate.
And it just kind of took me out of the movie a couple times. I know they were trying to make it like old newsreels, but for some reason, the narration didn't fit the actual footage of war that they were showing. Like, if they used real, like, newsreel narrators, but it almost sounded like Michael Bay just got a microphone and said, I don't know who did the narration, but I always thought of the Super Friends. The other one is, after watching this movie, and I think this is like the third time I've watched it, and I haven't seen it in ages, and it still holds up, I actually felt like I binged watched a mini-series. Because they tackle so much.
Yes.
In fact, I think it may have even would have worked better as a miniseries.
It might have, absolutely.
And I think the reason why people don't like it is not just the romance, but because it's really builds up until about an hour and a half, and then you get this big, massive war thing, which is phenomenal. And then there's another part to it. So I'm actually exhausted, and I feel that as much as I enjoyed the movie, I think for a movie they could have edited out some things. I don't necessarily mean the little subplots, because I like the nuances, but like just like they'd show a boxing sequence and they just show a lot of it. And we know Michael Bay's always liked stock footage. Lots of stock footage. Like, you know, we understand they're sending out planes, but you have to see every angle and everything. I kind of liked it, but I'm just saying I understand why some people found it's exhausting. It's like a marathon,
Well,
and
I think
they should have done Pearl Harbor 2 and then did Doolittle's Raid
I think the
at
reason
the
they
end
did
of
that is because, I mean, this movie is obviously very pro-America. And I think the reason they did that
But
is
they
because
showed the Japanese side a little.
They did, yes.
And I like that.
I like that they showed the
a
Japanese side.
little bit.
But I think the reason that they went on to show the Doolittle
Well,
Raid
yeah,
as
we
well,
can't lose.
Yeah,
it.
exactly. We can't end this movie. Oh, America got their ass kicked.
And
end.
And I'm just saying I liked it, but I'm sitting there. They tackle like everything. Just when you think they've tackled everything, they add something more. Like now we're gonna actually see the president. So not only do you have these two buddies that are friends, you have the love stories. Now we're gonna actually follow the president. Now we're gonna follow the Japanese. I liked it, but I'm just saying it felt like a mini-series crammed into 3 hours. And
Yeah,
I
guess,
think a
yeah.
lot of people were probably in theaters just going, give me war. I liked it, but if I have a criticism, it was a little... I'm exhausted after watching it.
It's because he's old. He has no stamina left anymore. My generation, we invented binge watching, so like, you need to just get over it.
Anyhow, those are really the only two negatives I had. I see that Michael Bay, I don't want to again use ripped off, but paid homage to a lot of things. They hit a lot of the beats Titanic
it's a French word,
did.
sir. It's a French word.
Yeah,
It's
they
homage.
use that in the
It's an
movie. Yeah.
homage.
But I think he does it in a really great way. I saw scenes from Top Gun in here. I thought I saw Bruce Willis from Die Hard walking by in the back that Damien is now never going to not see. It's funny, watch the one scene. I swear it looks like
It's not
Bruce Willis from
He's
Die
not in
Hard
this
with the
movie.
t-shirt,
He
dirty.
made a joke that he was just on his way to Nakatomi Plaza, which is a Japanese
Yeah,
plaza.
but anyhow, yeah, there's lots of things that he took from it, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, I guess there's lots of homages then. to
Homage,
it.
which is a French word apparently.
So you're probably shocked and in awe of that, but you know what? I say, check it out again. And if you can't take it all in one sitting, don't be afraid to cut it into 2 or something. But I think you should rewatch it because I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be.
No, definitely not.
I actually think it's great, and I was happy to hear Damien liked it too. And we're ready to take all your comments about it. And are you guys crazy?
You know what? Maybe we just know what real love is. So,
Oh, that's deeper, yeah. Anyhow, what was your real love in, not monetary terms, in rating terms, from 0 to 5?
Well, I mean, if Michael Bay wants to give me some of his funds, I'll take it. But I would say I'm going to give this a 4. I think it's a very well-rounded movie. I liked it pretty much all the way through. Like I said, it had some glaring historical inaccuracies there.
Well, I'm surprised you went up to a 4. That's cool. I want to go a 4, but I think I'm going to have to go 3.5. And I feel weird giving it a 3.5 because I like it so much, but I think the dauntingness is.
It
I
is
think
a long movie.
I almost think it would have been really interesting to see this as a mini series in like 3 parts or something.
Thankfully, we had pizza and wings to get us through this movie.
Yeah. So 4 from him, 3.5 from me. So that's our look at Pearl Harbor. Thank you for checking us out today. We always like when you hit play. And coming up in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get ready to celebrate Christmas. We're going to do a couple of Christmas movies for you as well. So that's exciting.
I love Christmas. I hear those sleigh bells ring-a-ling, ting-ting, ting-a-ling too.
And would you like to
Please hit
segue
that
out?
subscribe button and comment and like us too, because we want you to join us so soon.
Ever since the Grease review, we have to sing at the end of
No,
everyone.
but like, comment, subscribe, guys. I'll put the Facebook and the Twitter links in the comments section below, and then we will see you next time.